Chapter 3030 begins with a group of women seated together, engaging in polite conversation. These women, all born and raised in wealth, exude an air of elegance and sophistication, their nobility ingrained in their very demeanor. As they converse, they are joined by Carrie, now introduced as Mrs. Lab, who immediately greets the hostess, Mrs. Joel Erickson, and seamlessly integrates herself into the group. Carrie's appearance as Mrs. Lamb marks her first public outing in this new identity, and though she isn't familiar to many, she quickly establishes a rapport with the other women. Her background in attending similar events with her mother aids her in navigating this social environment, allowing her to blend in despite her new status. Meanwhile, Cameron, who has entered the hall alongside her mother in law Rosella, chooses not to approach Carrie directly. Instead, she returns to Rosella's side, where a quiet conversation ensues. Rosella, noticing the striking resemblance between Mrs. Labb and Cameron's sister Carrie, remarks on how similar their voices, figures, and even certain facial features are. This observation sparks a moment of tension, as both Rosella and Cameron suspect that Mrs. Labb might indeed be Carrie in disguise. Cameron recalls her earlier encounter with Mrs. Labb, during which she made some pointed comments about Carrie. She noticed that Mrs. Labb's demeanor faltered momentarily, almost as if she recognized the criticism was directed at her. This reaction only deepens Cameron's suspicions. However, Rosella quickly dismisses the idea that Mrs. Lamb could be Carrie, reasoning that even if Carrie had undergone plastic surgery, the transformation would have taken more time. The recent memory of Carrie visiting their home to demand money and accuse Cameron further convinces them that Mrs. Lamb and Carrie cannot be the same person. With this unsettling thought put to rest, Rosella turns her attention to introducing Cameron to several other high society women. These women, while polite, are clearly more reserved and less approachable than some of the younger guests, like Riley. The formality of these interactions highlights the social stratification within their circle and Cameron's sense of discomfort, as she has only recently entered this world. Although she receives polite greetings and exchanges pleasantries with these women, she finds the interaction somewhat stiff and distant. Rosella, sensing her unease and recognizing that the young woman might not yet feel entirely comfortable in such an elite social setting, encourages her to join the younger guests, including Riley. She acknowledges that Cameron would likely find it easier to relate to people closer to her own age and background, where conversations might be more relaxed and genuine. Cameron, appreciative of Rosella's understanding, heads off to find Riley. The chapter closes with Rosella watching her daughter in law walk away, offering a few final words of advice and ensuring that Cameron feels supported in this new social environment.